reviewing all the ways, or a plethora of ways to write linear equations, giving us different information. So again, we're shooting for slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. As a review, y and x are a coordinate, m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. Slope is also called rise over run, rate of change, coefficient of x. B would be your starting point, y-intercept, all those fun things. All right, so number one, we're going to write an equation of a line that has a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 6. The two things you must have to write the equation of a line are slope and then a y-intercept. And again, we're going to plug that in, y equals mx, and then plus or minus if our y-intercept happens to be negative. Our slope is going to be a -2 for this one, and our y-intercept is at +6. And you've now written that equation of a line that has a slope of rise of a -2 with a run of 1, and it's going to start on your y-intercept, so the y-axis up and down at 6. And you're going to count down 2 over 1. And just to make sure, remembering negative slope means that line is going to be decreasing as we go to the right. So those are our favorite because they're super straightforward. Now write the equation of a line with a slope of 3 passing through 3 and 10. So we have our slope, which we know is our m value. We have a coordinate, which is not our b value, but it is important because this is our x and our y values. And now we are missing, so what you need to make sure you know, missing the b value. Because remember, you need an m and a b, or a slope and a y-intercept, to be able to write the equation of a line. So we're going to take what we have, plug in, and solve. So what do I have? I have, and in this case, I set you up because you got an x right there. You don't want to use that x right there. We want to put our y value, so we're going to do 10, and it's going to be equals our slope, which is 3, times our x value, which is 3, and we don't have our y-intercept. That's what we need. So we have 10 equals 3 times 3, which is 9, plus b. This is where we're trying to get b by itself, just like our old school solving equations. It's a one-step equation from here on out. So minus 9, because it's the inverse of that positive. And so we now know that b is 1. The two things you need to write the equation of a line, because you have a lot of numbers floating around here, is just your slope and your y-intercept. So that 3 and that 1 are all we need to write the final equation, which is going to be y equals slope of 3, x plus 1. And this equation, this worksheet does say circle our answers, so we will circle our answers. So number 3, write an equation of a line, and at any point, pause the video. Try this. Like I keep trying to tell you, the more you mess up, the sooner you'll get better. So be easy. Just go for it. There's nothing wrong with it. See how far you get before you freeze up. Every time you try that, you'll get a little bit further. All right, so number 3, write an equation of a line that passing through 2 coordinates. If I have 2 coordinates, again, the things you need are your m and a b value. In this case, we're missing both. We don't have our slope and we don't have our y-intercept given to us. So first and foremost, we're going to solve for our slope, and you can do that either with your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which you've done forever, or you can use my trick for zeros. So we're going to stack them. Then we're going to do like 3rd grade math. We're going to subtract them like column math. And -4 minus 4 gives me a -8. And 0 minus 6 gives me a -6. So stack them, subtract them, y's on top. So that's -6 over -8. Hopefully we know by this point negative and negative is going to give us a positive. Both of these are divisible by 2, so we can reduce that. That's 3 over 4 positive. So our slope is going to be 3 over 4. Now I have a slope, and now I need a y-intercept. So again, you can choose either one of these 2 coordinates that you want. It's up to you. I'm going to choose the one with 0 just because I like zeros. It makes things go away. Or there's less numbers to deal with, I should say. Small numbers and zeros are my favorite, but it doesn't matter. Both coordinates will work, and you should get the same answer when you're done. So I'm going to take my x value and my y value, and then my slope of 3/4, and we're going to plug it in. So in this case, my y is 0. And a call out, as soon as you see a y is 0, just like we talked about in previous videos as well, this is going to be an x-intercept. And that means it's going to cross the x-axis at a -4. Not super pertinent to this concept, but the sooner you can get it like stuck to your brain, when you see a 0 in a coordinate, depending on if it's the x or the y, it is an intercept. It just depends which place it's sitting in, the number that's given. If the x is given, it crosses the x-axis there. If the y is given, it crosses the y-axis there. All right, so back to our equations after my little tangent. Sorry, our slope is going to be 3/4, so 3/4. We're going to multiply that by a -4, and we're going to get a b value. So 3/4 times a -4, so it's 3/4, sorry, it's positive, times a -4 over 1. We're going to work straight across the top. Positive 3 times a -4 is going to give me a -12. 4 times 1 is going to give me 4. We're going to reduce that because 12 is divisible by 4, and we're going to get a -3 slope. I'm sorry, a -3. So 0 equals -3 plus b. We need to get b by itself, and right now that -3 is over there with b. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. And so our b value is 3. And our coordinate choice, if we're trying to fill in our notes completely, we decided to use -4, 0. We're going to plug in and solve, which is here, which is what we did. We have the things that we need, and that would be our slope, that 3/4, and then our b value of 3. And we can write our equation. So y equals our slope, x. Don't leave off the x. If you leave off the x, it's no longer a coefficient of x. That's one of the mistakes I watch a lot of people make who do a lot of really great math, and you don't want to do that because that's a silly mistake. And we now have an equation that passes through the two coordinates -4, 0 and 4, 6. Number 4, write the equation of a line passing through two coordinates again. So again, we're still missing our slope and our y-intercept. So we got to solve for our m and solve for our b. First things first, I would start with your slope. So I'm going to stack them. So 2, -3, -7, -15. And then I'm going to work straight down, and I'm going to subtract both columns. That minus makes us a plus. So 7 plus 2 is going to be 9. That minus makes this a positive 15 as well. So if I have 15 and I lose 3 because that's a negative, that means I have 12. Y is on top, so 12 over 9. And we want to see if we can reduce it. They are both divisible by 3. So we can get 4 over 3 as our slope. Because 4 times 3 is 12 and 3 times 3 is 9. So we have a slope of 4 over 3, which is coincidentally just the reciprocal of our previous. We're going to pick a coordinate. I like 2, -3 just because they're smaller, and well, there's only one negative versus 2. But again, you can do whichever one you want. You just have to get the same final answer. So we have a slope, we have our x value, we have our y value, and we're going to use these, and we're going to plug them in. So y is -3. Our slope is going to be 4 over 3. And then our x value is 2. And then plus b. So 4 times 2 over 4 over 3 times 2. So 4 over 3 times 2 over 1 is going to give me 8 over 3, which does not reduce because 3 is an odd number and 8 is an even number. Neither one of them are divisible by each other. So we have a -3 equals 8 over 3 plus b. Now, again, as I've mentioned, we are solving for the y-intercept at this point, b. I want to make sure that's a decimal because it just makes it a little easier to graph it. So 8 divided by 3 is a 2.6 repeating. So 2.66 repeating is at 8.3. I'm going to subtract that to move it over with the -3. So we're going to end up with a -5.6 repeating equals b. You need to write the equation, your slope, and your y-intercept, whether it be a decimal or a nice neat number, it doesn't matter, still the same game. So y equals 4 over 3x minus 5.6 repeating, and that will be our equation for that line, messy or not. we're going to write the equation of a line parallel. Hopefully your ears just perked up. So we know parallel. That means we need to know the slope. They give it to us in slope-intercept form, passing through a point. As soon as you see a point, you know we have an x and a y. We need to identify the slope here, which is at -3. Parallel lines have the same slope because parallel lines never touch, so their rise and run has to be exactly the same. So we need to know the parallel slope is going to be a -3. We're going to plug in our x and our y. So our y, we're going to go with 9. Our slope is -3. That's our m. And then our x value is 4. And then we just got to solve. So we end up with 9. Whoops, made that a g. Equals -12 plus b, because -3 times 4 gives us a -12. You want to get that b by itself. So we're going to add 12 to both sides, which gives us 21. And we now have our b by itself. Two things you need to write the line of equation is your slope and your b. Don't forget this b up here does not matter, so go ahead and get rid of it because you need to use your new b for the new line. That 10 only matters to that guy. So our parallel line is going to be y equals the same slope as the other because that's what parallel lines do. Don't leave off your x because otherwise it's no longer the coefficient of x, which means it's no longer notating the slope of the line. And then our y-intercept that we solved for, which would be that 21. All right, number 6, write the equation of a line perpendicular. So that's another one. Make sure you're thinking, stopping, not going too fast, not reading too fast. They both start with P's. It's easy to get them mixed up. But parallel lines have same slope, and perpendicular lines do not have same slope. They have opposite and, so there's two things, and reciprocal. And remember, reciprocal means flip. So opposite and reciprocal for perpendicular lines. We need to identify our slope in the equation given. It is given in slope-intercept form. So our slope is going to be that 1/2 that we need to deal with, and it's going to pass through 3 and 5. Now, our slope is 1/2. So 1/2 would be parallel. We would use 1/2. And I challenge you to pause the video. I keep forgetting. Pause. Try it. Pause the video. Try it. We're going to do it opposite, and then we're going to flip it, and -2/1 is 2. So our perpendicular slope is a -2. Because we had a positive before, so it has to be negative, and instead of 1/2, it's going to be 2/1, which we know is just a whole number of a -2. We're going to plug in our x and our y's. So our y is 5. Our slope, our new slope is a -2. And our x is 3. And then we're going to solve for our new y-intercept because this 2 does not help us. -2 times 3 is a -6. We want to get b by itself. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. And that's going to be 11 equals b. Two things you need. Slope, your new slope, and your y-intercept to write the equation of a line. So y equals, our new slope is a -2 because that's the opposite reciprocal, and they ask for perpendicular, x plus 11. All right, one more for review. You got it. Double dog dare you. Pause it. Try it yourself. A little couple extra steps, but you got this. All right, parallel line. Parallel line is going to be the same slope. So as soon as you see the word parallel, you want to think never touch. Then after that, same slope. But we have it in standard form. So first and foremost, we need to get this in slope-intercept form. So we want to get y by itself. So 4x minus 2y equals 8. And we do want the y by itself. That -2 is attached to the y. So we're going to move our x, which is subtract our x, or add, if it happened to have been negative. -2y equals a -4x, and that's a positive 8 still there. Divide by our coefficient of y, so divide by -2. Be careful not to lose your negatives as you work along. Reduce across, so y equals -4 divided by -2 is going to give me 2x, and 8 divided by -2 is going to give me a -4. We now have our slope-intercept form, so we can identify the slope that we started with. The line does say parallel, so it is going to be the same. So our parallel slope from our slope-intercept form, so this is where we got 2x and a negative 4. Our parallel slope is going to be that positive 2 because it is the same. Write it again. Can't write it enough until we get it in there and stuck in our brains. That's all you hear when I say parallel. You hear slope same. Same slope. This negative 4 is not helpful for the new line. It is just where the first line crosses the y-intercept. So now we're going to take our x and our y that it tells us is going to pass through this point. So x and then our y. Plug it in. So we have our y value. Our slope is 2. And then our x value is a negative 4. And then we're going to solve for the b of our new line. So 10 equals a negative 8 because 2 times negative 4 plus b. We need to get b by itself. It's a negative 8. So we're going to add 8 to both sides. And 10 plus 8 is going to give me b equals 18. The two things you need to write the equation of a line is your new slope and your new y-intercept. So it's going to be y equals 2x plus 18. All right, so that's a great review of all the ways that you are going to have to be able to write an equation in slope-intercept form. And again, I cannot reiterate enough, you are going to see this on your EOC. Please don't fight the process. Reach out if you have questions. Practice, mess up, start over, all the fun things, guys. Have a great afternoon.